Mr. Talak, would you call the meeting to order, please?
Yes.
And do a roll call.
Yep, Mr. Andre.
Here.
Mr. Gayheart.
Here.
Mr. Gatton.
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mrs. Kostock may join us later. Mrs. Reckles.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. This meeting has been noticed per state statutes. And we can go ahead and get started.
All right. I explained Mr. and if I pronounce it Wittrall.
Yep.
All right. That this is our first time that we've ever done one of these hearings or had a petition of this nature. We did go through and identify all the steps that we need to go through. So the way we outline the agenda is in that order.
Okay.
So we do need the identification of the chairperson. If there's no objection, it's not like an annual meeting where you vote to appoint, but we should at least identify if everyone's okay with Mrs. Ingersoll serving in that role.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then an overview of the petition.
So do you want me to just kind of go through
Yep.
the notes?
Yeah, if you want to go through, we can bring the petition up and then, or we can invite Michael to go ahead and, share the petition, but it is included in.
Yeah, the link
The notes
is a
Yeah.
link to the petition itself.
I can pull this up. And the petition itself, just gives a description of the parcel and the property. We can pull up a link to the map.
Yeah, there was a link to the map.
To show that. What I explained to Mr. Matral, it'd be helpful probably for the board too, because it doesn't give a lot of explanation as to the why of the request or so forth. So he had sent to me an email.
Well, the rationale is
and
listed in the board notes.
Yep, so that's not a part of the petition form, but
Oh.
the rationale was shared. I don't know if you wanted to go through the rationale yourself with the board, that might be. Yeah.
Rather than me just reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, no, when we were looking, we noticed we were, our residential home, is not far from the next southern residential home that's included in the boundaries to Lake Geneva School District, so it's not across town, it's not far from that northern border that currently exists, for the district boundary. So we didn't want to be too unreasonable in our requests, like we're not saying we're across town, we're 20, 30 minutes away. And then we're kind of centrally located, so we're approximately the same distance from the Elkhorn School District that we are from the current school that they're opening to, which is Central Denison, but also all of the other schools were relatively equidistant from both school districts. Where we're located, which is on the corner of Highway 120 and Highway 11, as you can see there.
So this is your property in the yellow right here.
Correct.
And the map that Jody put together this is the closest, this is his property. All these are Elkhorn Area School District. The closest Lake Geneva property is this one.
Is that?
So the northernmost boundary is where? Of our district? Or the
Right,
southern,
goes
I
right
guess it
in
would be
this
the southernmost.
Southernmost, right along here.
Okay,
This one pops up right there.
got it.
So, and then part of our rationale too was for 2 years we owned a plot of land on Highway 36, which was in the boundary of Lake Geneva. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we got to the stage of we got all the building plans to build a home there. So we were planning to send our children to Lake Geneva from the start. But due to the pandemic, the rise of costs of labor and materials, that plan had to forego that plan. So we purchased the nearest house that we could, to where it was comfortable for us to still send them to that district to open by open enrollment. And another rationale is my wife works in Richmond, which is straight south. And I work out of Chicago, so, the transportation is a little bit more convenient, for the two of us, for all the schools that they would attend, in Lake Geneva. And then, another reason is, the reason why we chose Central Denison to begin with was, because one of our oldest daughter had a lot of health concerns when she was younger, and still does. And the doctor always recommended the most fresh air that you can get, the better. So Central Denison is located in the heart of downtown Lake Geneva, and they take a lot of walking tours in downtown frequently throughout the year. So that gives her the opportunity to get out more than just for a recess period. And just to kind of get that fresh air. And then I know that I talked to Mr. Tedek here about the YMCA program, just because we are located in Elkhorn. We wanted to, in the past couple of years, enroll them into a lot of the summer programs at the YMCA. Lake Geneva YMCA, but due to the fee schedule, it was a little much for what we could do at the moment. So having the in district would be helpful, but from what I understand, that may or may not hinge on the decision of moving the school districts itself if they're already open enrolled there. And then there's also the layer of uncertainty. And while our daughters are not special ed enrolled, and we don't foresee that, there's always that level of uncertainty because they're open enrolled in that school district, and they've been there for 2 years already, and they've flourished, and they've gotten created very good friendships with students and relationships with the staff. That uncertainty, if they ever do need that extra help with the 504 plan or with special ed, where they wouldn't allow that, because with open enrollment with special education, it's typically they'll tell you just to go to your home district. So that uncertainty of having to move them, if that ever does come up, that is worrisome a little bit. Not that we expect it, but you never know. So pretty much a rush.
What grades were your two daughters in?
So our oldest was in kindergarten and is currently doing first grade.
Okay.
And then our youngest 3K and now 4K.
Just for the board's knowledge, so you're aware, Lake Geneva is a union high school district. So for the kids to attend through kindergarten through 8th grade, once they're open enrolled, they're okay, and their open enrollment status stays approved throughout that kindergarten through 8th grade. There can be some districts, and what he's speaking to, if the student gets an IEP, just like we set our cap numbers. So we capped RISE at a certain level. It does allow a district that if the student doesn't currently have an IEP and then they're open enrolled and they do get an IEP, a district legally can at that point say, we have no seats in that program, you have to go back to your resident district. And that's what you're referring to.
Correct, and we spoke to the special ed director at the chief.
Yeah, and Lake Geneva, I'm not aware, I did just text you, I'm not aware if they have any caps or not, but that is something that can change from year to year. Once they're done with 8th grade, they do have to reapply for open enrollment going into 9th grade because it's technically a different school district. That one.
Right.
Yeah, does the board have any questions related to that motion?
I know I have a few, but if somebody else would like to go ahead.
I don't understand the map better. So the yellow parcel, that's the parcel you live in.
Correct.
And the closest Lake Geneva school parcel is the one in blue.
Yes.
Correct.
where are the boundaries? I mean, is that an island?
This
Yes.
line, it juts up, I'm guessing because these owners are probably the same parcel and then down and across. So these are all Elkhorn area school district properties, right?
So
So let's pull up-
360 degrees, yes, it would be an island that we would be annexing. Or,
Well, the one in the blue, below it, that's Lake Geneva, right?
correct,
Okay, and above it is all
all
Elkhorn.
Elkhorn, all the
Okay.
way around his current property.
Approximately, I mean, what are we talking about here? Like 3 miles away, 2 miles away,
No, this is probably only, what, about a mile?
about a mile away? Okay.
About a mile out.
What is the county or township? They don't care.
It's a district portion, so it only impacts the school tax portion. And this is really, it's an old law that's been on the books. It didn't go away when open enrollment came about. It used to be much more common because that was the only way you could attend another district. And so when you look at school district boundaries, you will see from time to time, I don't know if we have one, but you will see from time to time where there's like a island property, and sometimes farmers or people would get together and, districts would say trade two properties. Or I know, I was over in Wheatland when, Paris School District, Kevin's, uncle, or no. Yeah, your uncle was superintendent, where like the Strawberry Creek development came in. I don't know all the details, but I believe Paris was like, yeah, that'll be too many people for we don't want, so they turned that portion over to Bristol, shifted over so that it wasn't part of their school district, so that Bristol and that area would handle that component. That was my understanding. So, but it used to be much more common before open enrollment. Once open enrollment came about, and you've got the school choice possibility. It kind of made it not as relevant for the most part.
So, go ahead.
You have access to a map that would show where the East Troy, Burlington, Lake Geneva, Elkhorn boundaries are. Because they're all right there.
Yeah, I was a little turned around.
Because Burlington would be on the other side of one flag. Yes.
Yeah.
That's-
Like right. If I remember correctly, right here is a gas station.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
Neighbors is right
Right,
there.
and that's, yeah, and across the street is the garden. right?
Oh,
Yeah.
now I
Okay.
Yep,
it's by my old house.
Yeah, south of where you don't know.
Yeah, okay.
We still have that map.
It doesn't go east far enough, so it cuts off right at 120, yeah.
well, while you guys are looking for that, I just have some clarifying questions, so. Your girls are open enrolled. Correct. And they've been there for 2 years?
Correct.
And you mentioned that. I mean. All of these other reasons, other than this one, are really. In my estimation, frivolous, but your real concern is that they would not be able to continue open enrollment. If they were to be found to needing an IEP, correct? Do you have reason to believe that either of your children would need an IEP?
No, not at the moment. No, but
Okay,
it's the level of uncertainty. My wife's a school psychologist in Richmond, so it's the level of uncertainty of not knowing. And I mean, they can qualify really at any time. So having established those relationships through the years, and 1 year comes up and they say, well, sorry, we can't accept you next year, then you're kind of scrambling.
Jason, to your knowledge, has Lake Geneva ever not open enroll the student?
No,
Yeah.
not at this point. And they've been a declining enrollment.
Right,
I also think if that were to be a scenario, like for example, if he had a student that was a high need special education and they had a special program there and they did, and you had been open enrolled there, and they were going to deny the open enrollment, my position to the board would be at that time, I would recommend accommodating the land swap to allow you to continue that. Because I think that changes the calculus at that
of
point.
course.
The challenge is Lake Geneva could deny it. Both districts have to approve it.
Mhm.
I would hope that they would approve in that type scenario.
Mhm.
It can be appealed to the next level.
Mhm.
But if it's not a contiguous piece of property, then that's one of the criteria that it would likely be turned down at the next level on an appeal. If it borders the property, then they handle that differently, but this is the map, so this is a little parcel that juts out. And this is where, this would be your property area here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're right, they do all kind of converge.
Same spot.
Burlington, East Troy.
Yeah,
Yeah. California. Oh, wow, that's, oh, there it is. Okay.
so there's not an ask for this because of transportation, issues. It's really comes down to a potential unknown. My child could possibly in the future have an IEP. Don't see,
This is the island and there's a.
yeah,
Here's, I don't know if that, I don't know whose district that is, but that's an example of, yeah, there's a little island right there. That might be in ours. I'm not certain. It would make sense because there's a road right there.
oh, yep, it says Elkhorn area.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So that would be an example of an island that somehow got carved out probably before Oklahoma.
Probably before.
Is that Geneva National Area?
Mm.
Or is this
No,
not?
I think it's over that way, yeah.
Yeah.
So that island that's in our district, do we provide bus service there?
Probably, I don't think so.
I mean, but
What road is that?
We do
Is that-
go
is that-
down into Geneva National. If there was if somebody moved into that island, and this is a challenge,
Right.
because just because that family back
Right.
then when they had it,
Mhm.
you know, and in this case, that would be Lake Geneva's problem, but he would be legally entitled to bus transportation.
Correct.
So yes, if somebody lived in this parcel and needed transportation, at least this one, it's right by the border there,
Right.
but we would have to send a bus down.
So is that like 11 and? Or is that? What is that crossroad there? Is that 50 and 67 or? That
Right
corner,
here?
that corner, yeah, what is that?
This is 67,
Oh, okay,
or is that's 50 right there?
no, that's 43.
That's
Oh, was
No,
12.
That's
12,
right
yeah,
there.
that's 12.
Okay.
I was
It'd
just
be
trying to
nice
figure
if
out
they
what-
would mark them.
Trying to figure out what that intersection was.
It's not 120, is it? 120 is over.
Mhm.
Right, 120 is the next one over.
Yeah.
That's 36 going off towards
Right.
Burlington.
There's a little island in ours.
Each Troy.
Yeah, those all must be.
Yeah,
So that's right on the corner of.
this looks like another one right here.
East right.
Pre-open enrollment, that was the only way they would
Yeah.
do that.
Any other questions? Or,
I mean, I think the facts on it are pretty straightforward. I mean, there's not really many questions that I have.
I mean, for me, I'm surprised that there's that many little islands,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's not like it's an unheard of or unreasonable request, but when I look at the criteria, you know, if he wanted to appeal it, you know, I don't.
I just don't. I'm not likely to give away. Funding, which is really what it boils down to, for. The possibility that a child could potentially. Have an IEP in the future. That's. Or I'm coming in on it, but.
I almost think it would be a disservice to the rest of the constituents in Elkhorn to put them with a bigger bill.
Yeah, we're
You know,
not just affecting. The school district or affecting taxpayers.
Yeah, that's taxpayers, basically.
And I'm looking at it as, I mean, I don't know, I came into this like with the hope that I would find something that I would be able to say, yeah, let's go ahead and do this for him. I mean, it's clearly something that he wants, but I mean, off of the option of, I'm in agreement with you, Julia, just the idea of like, hey, this is a potential possibility down the road. I mean, right now, both girls are in the schools, in like Geneva. There's no transportation issue right now. I'm not seeing,
I'm not seeing a hardship,
right,
and I,
to where we would have to
Right.
remove a chunk of Elkhorn and switch it over to Lake Geneva.
Right.
And to me, just doesn't, especially not with open enrollment anymore.
I guess I kind of come in thinking long-term, that parcel's now Lake Geneva's.
Yeah.
You sell the property,
Mhm.
now that person is pigeonholed into Lake Geneva.
correct,
Unless they
Mhm.
come and do this process as well.
to get it back, and
Right.
then they have to go petition Lake Geneva,
Right. Yeah.
and Lake Geneva's not gonna wanna give up
Right. Well,
Right.
yeah, they're gonna be in
for
the
the
same,
same reason.
yeah, exactly.
Unless they don't wanna have to do transportation, but.
Jason, you said this isn't, you've never seen this since you've been here?
So I've never had one brought forward. Since I've been a principal or a superintendent anywhere, since open enrollment, they're really rare. That being said, we did have another potential petitioner, ironically from Lake Geneva to us, who was on the border. And also had 2 kids, but they're open enrolled to us and. He withdrew the petition and looking at it, but well, there's not, he didn't feel there was a need to proceed. At that point, that perhaps would have made it even simpler, or if the boards wanted to, because then. The property piece, we could have said, well, we're exchanging with Lake Geneva. An equivalent or similar property if they wanted, but that gentleman, you know, the kids are here, he's on the border, so. Even open enrolled students can receive transportation from the closest bus stop, so you can bus a bus right there with permission of the other district, and I would have no problem giving. Badger permission if they wanted to drive up to your place to pick up. They probably have a bus. I don't know where their closest current property is. You know, well, it's probably right in this area right here. It's probably the closest bus stop area. I mean, that would be up to them if they wanted to have, this is a border over here. Anyway, I wouldn't have a big issue if they wanted to come up to Carlos and go back down. But, we do that, we go into like Geneva National to pick up. But part of Geneva National is our district boundary. Williams
Correct.
Bay, us and Lake Geneva all
Correct.
have to go into Geneva National.
Yep.
Which from a logistics standpoint, it probably would have been nice when that development went in, that they carved it out for one
Yeah.
area, but.
One other petition since I've been here.
Mhm.
And that involved. A development called the Shodine development, you know, what's gonna happen, and we looked at boundaries between Alcorn and Delavan, and there are a couple. it just made sense based on that development, always there was gonna be boundary changes in between subdivisions.
Right,
So that, I mean, both boards approved that, because it was really just straighten out lines and each district received the same value.
right.
Okay.
If we wanted to, the administrative recommendation of looking at this, sympathetic again to the request, understanding that the kids attend Lake Geneva School District, but knowing that both students are in there, there's no obstacle to them being in there.
Mhm.
Apparently not a burden on the transportation of this piece or a concern with being rejected through open enrollment. Or if it was kind of along the lines of what the board discussed, that even though it's not a significant amount from a total overall dollar amount, but there is a lot of property surrounding, which what would be the justification, I guess, we could say, well, no, it's just farmland. There's no, other reason for that, but
Farmland
I
is
just
developed.
keeping, yes, exactly, and there are other residences up within that area, so what would be, from that overall protection of the district assets and that revenue standpoint, even though the net isn't a significant difference, it is, in today's dollars, a little over 400,000 or around $400,000 in property value
Mhm.
from the tax roll standpoint. That without an equivalent or similar trade with Lake Geneva, I wouldn't recommend it at this time. If there was a trade or something that they wanted to, but that would require all parties being agreed.
It's my inclination to, if and when that day should come, that there's a need, the potential, like child gets an IEP and Lake Geneva all of a sudden decides, no, you need to go to your own district. I might. That would, to me, that would be more of a hardship situation. But with it just being a potential unknown, maybe someday, that's not something that I'm inclined to.
Yeah, I look at the 7 criteria that, the TPI would do. I think they would deny it. I agree with you, Julia, that if there is a hardship, that we come back and make that request, and
Yeah,
we do what we can do, and hopefully Lake Geneva would accept it as well.
There's no answer to Lake Geneva whether or not they're even looking at this right now, right?
No, they also have to look at it.
Right.
So that's, their superintendent wanted me to let them know what we decided tonight, but
Okay.
he has to go, they also have to have a hearing.
Okay.
so, do we then?
We
is it
have
something
two
we
options.
vote
It's
on,
one to
or-
take no action on it. Someone can make a motion to deny the request,
Mhm.
or no motion is the same as a denial.
Okay.
Or you can make a motion to approve.
If we take no action, does that mean, say, for example, in 6 months, an IEP is, I mean, it's not like it really matters, it's real quick to get the paperwork back and running, but is it like 6 months, we get an IEP put in here, the whole shebang saying, where we said, hey, this is now a hardship, we can go ahead and take a look at it again?
That's
Well,
a
I
good
would want to
question.
see more than just an IEP. I would
Right.
want to see a denial from Lake Geneva.
Oh, fair
based
point.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that they're,
But like, I mean, if we
Yeah.
take no action, does that mean it's still alive, but we just don't do anything with it? Or is it like legitimately, hey, we have now denied it?
because here's the situation. A child could get the IEP and Lake Geneva had said, sure, you can stay in our district,
Mhm.
there's that possibility
Yeah.
as well,
To-
so.
To answer your question, Devin, unless Bill has knowledge of it, I'm not that familiar with the statute that if the board denies, is there a timeline or a restriction from reapplying?
Yeah, that's kind of
So I
like,
think the safest would be to not take action on it,
Yeah.
allowing for
Right,
a potential petition in the future in case there was language in there And I don't have it in front. I don't-
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
It could come back to the board again in a year.
Sure.
Okay,
So once a year they can petition, there's no limit.
Okay,
okay. And that's where I was kind of going with it, just trying to
Right.
see where we were
Yeah, yeah.
landing on that.
so
So read to take no action.
I'm fine with that. Anybody feel differently?
No.
Okay,
Adam?
Well, hopefully everything will go well.
yeah, we
Yeah,
hope,
no, I got a lot of information here. Thank you for.
yeah, we hope for sure that,
We need to
that,
have an official motion to take no action.
I'm just reading the certificate of true copy that Jody has to submit, and it says resolution altering district boundaries or resolution of denial.
As a chair, you could ask for a motion. Is there a motion?
Okay, sure.
And if no one,
yeah.
yeah.
So I guess, would anybody like to make a motion to approve or to deny? Seeing none, then the board has chosen to take no action.
Then we just need a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Do we have to roll call vote that one?
Okay, Mr. Andre.
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart.
Yes.
Mr. Gatton.
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa is absent. Mrs. Reckles
Yes.
and Mr. Scarrow.
Yes.